Hello, my friends. Welcome back. I hope you are having a wonderful day. What if the greatest scientist in history was hiding a secret? What if the man who discovered gravity spent more time in a secret laboratory than in any classroom? What if he believed he could turn metal into gold? What if he thought he had discovered the date the world would end? This man changed science. His name was Isaac Newton. And today, my friends, I am going to tell you the full story. Not the story you learned in school, not the apple falling from the tree. I am going to tell you the story of the secret Isaac Newton, the one who worked alone in firelight, the one who wrote over 1 million words about alchemy, the one who calculated, yes, calculated, the end of the world. This is a story about genius, obsession, mystery, and a man who believed he had been chosen by God to understand everything. Now, let us go back. Back to the beginning. Isaac Newton was born on Christmas Day in 1642. He was born in a small village in England called Woolsthorpe. It was a cold and quiet place, a place where the sky was wide and the nights were long. His start in life was not easy. His father had already died before Isaac was born. Then, when Isaac was just 3 years old, his mother left. She remarried and moved away. She left little Isaac behind with his grandmother. Can you imagine that feeling? A small boy, no father, no mother, just a grandmother and a big empty house. Isaac grew up feeling alone. He was quiet. He was different from other children. He did not like to play outside. He liked to build things. He liked to think. He spent hours making small machines out of wood. He watched the wind. He watched the light. He asked questions that other children never thought to ask. At school, he was not always the best student, but there was something burning inside him, a need to understand, a need to know how everything worked. When he was a teenager, his mother came back. She wanted Isaac to become a farmer. She pulled him out of school and sent him to work in the fields. But Isaac was terrible at farming. He would sit in the field and stare at the sky. He would forget to feed the animals. His mind was always somewhere else. Thankfully, one of his teachers recognized something special in this quiet, dreaming boy. He convinced Isaac's mother to let him return to school, and she agreed. Isaac went back. And this time, he did not stop. He studied harder than anyone around him. He won a place at Cambridge University in 1661. He was 18 years old. He arrived with very little money. He worked as a servant to pay for his studies. He cleaned rooms. He carried bags. But every night, every single night, he read. He studied. He filled notebooks with questions and ideas. Then something happened that would change his life and the world forever. In 1665, a terrible plague swept across England. Cambridge University closed its doors. Isaac was sent home to Woolsthorpe. He was 22 years old. He had no teacher, no library, no one to guide him. But there was something waiting for him at home: time, silence, and an apple tree in the garden. The next 18 months would become the most productive period in the history of science. Isaac Newton, alone in that quiet house, began to see the world differently. He began to understand gravity. He began to understand light. He began to understand mathematics in a way no human being ever had before. But here is the thing, my friends, and this is where the story gets truly interesting. At the very same time, in that very same house, Isaac Newton began doing something else entirely. Something secret, something strange, something that the world would not discover for nearly 300 years. What was he doing, and why did he hide it so carefully? Isaac Newton became famous, enormously famous. In 1687, he published a book called the Principia Mathematica. It described the laws of gravity and motion. Scientists across Europe read it and were astonished. Here was a man who had explained how the universe worked, the planets, the tides, the falling of objects, all explained with beautiful, perfect mathematics. The world celebrated him. He became the president of the Royal Society, the most important scientific organization in England. He was knighted by the Queen. He became Sir Isaac Newton, rich, respected, powerful. But behind all of this, behind the fame and the medals and the celebrations, Isaac Newton had another life. In his private laboratory, he was an alchemist. Alchemy was an ancient and mysterious practice. Alchemists believed they could transform ordinary metals into gold. They believed there was a secret substance, they called it the Philosopher's Stone, that could unlock the deepest powers of nature. They believed it could create gold. Some even believed it could give eternal life. Most people thought alchemy was nonsense. The church was suspicious of it. Scientists looked down on it. But Isaac Newton believed. He believed with his whole heart. He built a small laboratory at the back of his college rooms. He lit the fire and kept it burning for weeks at a time. He mixed chemicals. He heated metals. He recorded everything in careful, secret notebooks. He wrote over 1 million words about alchemy. 1 million words. That is more than he ever wrote about physics or mathematics. He worked through the night. His assistant, a young man named Humphrey Newton, described watching Isaac work in that smoky room. Sometimes Isaac forgot to eat. Sometimes he forgot to sleep. He was searching for something. Something he believed was real. Something ancient and powerful. And he was not just mixing chemicals. He was reading everything he could find about ancient civilizations, about Egypt, about the Bible, about the Temple of Solomon. He believed that the ancient world held secret knowledge that had been hidden inside texts and symbols, knowledge that God had placed there, waiting for the right person to find it. Isaac Newton believed he was that person. He spent decades studying the Bible, not as a religious book, but as a code, a mathematical code. He believed that if he read it carefully enough, with the right eyes, he could find hidden messages, predictions about history, about empires, about the future. And then he found something that shook him deeply. He calculated, using numbers and biblical prophecy, that the world would not end before the year 2060. Not would not end before. He was trying to stop panic. He was trying to tell the world, do not fear, we have time. But the fact that he made this calculation at all tells you everything. This was not a hobby. This was an obsession. He truly believed he could read the future inside the Bible. His colleagues did not know. His friends did not know. He kept these notebooks locked away. He never published them. He was afraid of what people would say. Afraid that his reputation, the reputation of the greatest scientist in the world, would be destroyed. He was two men, the brilliant scientist the world admired, and the secret alchemist who believed he could touch the mysteries of God. For most of his life, no one knew. He was alone with his fire, his chemicals, and his ancient books, searching, always searching. Isaac Newton lived to the age of 84. He never married. He had no children. In his final years, he grew quieter. The fire in the laboratory burned less often. The notebooks piled up, unread, locked away. He died in 1727. England gave him a grand funeral. He was buried in Westminster Abbey, the place where kings and queens are remembered. The whole country mourned him, but his secret went with him, or so everyone thought. For nearly 200 years, those private notebooks sat in boxes, unseen, unread. Then, in 1936, a collection of Newton's secret papers was sold at auction. A famous economist named John Maynard Keynes bought many of them. He read them with wide eyes, and he said something extraordinary. He said that Newton was not the first scientist of the modern age. He was the last great magician of the ancient world. Think about that. The last great magician. A man with 1 foot in the future and 1 foot in the past. A man who gave us the science that would one day send rockets to the moon, and who also spent his nights searching for the philosopher's stone and reading the Bible like a secret code. When those notebooks were fully studied in the 20th century, the world was amazed. Here was the greatest scientific mind in history, and he had written more about alchemy and biblical prophecy than about physics, more about ancient temples than about gravity. Thank you so much for listening to this story today. I truly hope you enjoyed this journey into the secret world of Isaac Newton.